Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an anime story podcast. I'm the Big Bad Moon right over here on the right. Oh, I messed up. Right over here on my right is Bad Strategy, but it's not Bad Strategy, it's Hallen, 3D. And just below me is Bad Strategy. I messed up. But hang on. Let me fix that real quick. Just gonna move you guys around a little bit. So, Hallen, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
You good?
Happy. Enjoying the holidays. Staying busy. All the things.
Those are the best. All right.
Video games.
Ooh, I saw. What was it? Are you playing Space Economy Simulator right now?
No, that's my son.
Okay. I see that happening a lot.
Yeah.
Bad, how are you doing?
I am good, as always, as per protocol.
Yes, I have been keeping very busy with work. Holidays are over. No longer working 85-hour weeks. That's the best. I love that. Not enough time for anime when you work that many hours. So, today, I believe we're going to be talking about a little anime called Serial Experiments Lain. Da-da-da. I'm going to jump right into you. Hallen, what do you think?
Well, I liked it a lot better this watch around because I watched some of it.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Back in like 2005-ish. And I didn't keep up at all. It lost my... I was like, what? Like, my little brain could not process.
It's definitely an anime that is hard to follow. Like, it's a little disjointed to start with. And that's before, like, I think about halfway through, they just switch over to, like, what if the scenes were just there to be metaphors and not to be part of a, like, coherent narrative, and then halfway through it switches over to being very, like, more hard to follow than it was initially.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
That's what Sam said. He's like, I don't know if Jake's gonna like this one.
I didn't like it.
It's good, but I don't think he's gonna get it.
I have problems.
It's very I actually did like it this time.
It is.
But
it is a class. Here's how I feel. It's a class of anime or stories or anything that I would describe as, and I think me and Bad talked about this a little bit, I would describe it as an experience. Rather than a story.
Okay.
I don't feel like... there is obviously something happening in the story. Obviously, there's a character.
Right.
I
can totally get on that track with you.
There's too much preachy philosophy or pseudo-philosophy in this.
There were a lot of monologues.
There's a lot of monologues. If you like monologues, if you like use of monologues, some pseudo-science, pseudo-philosophical monologues, this is your show.
I will say, I think it is important for writers to when they're making a story, be like, is a third of the story monologues?
If it
That's
is,
too many monologues. Or in Serial Experiment Lane's case, are like 2/3 of the story monologue.
2/3, a good solid 2/3.
That's too much.
I did listen to the English version though.
Did you? Yeah, that's fair.
Did you notice?
God, I can't imagine trying
to. Did you notice the delightfully painful lack of subtitles on text?
I hate that. I hate that.
Right? You're like,
okay.
I can't read Japanese.
I can't read Japanese. I'm sure that says something important and relevant to the plot, but I don't know what it says. So okay.
Did you guys buy it? How'd you guys watch it?
We watched it on an entirely legitimate website that I can't remember.
Oh, okay. That's Sam had the old DVDs.
Oh, did he?
Our PlayStation 4
Of course he did.
Yeah, I know.
Would it not? The PlayStation
No.
4 Lane.
So
Interesting.
we had to pull out the Blu-ray player to watch them.
Huh?
No.
How weird. Well, I'm glad that
They're not even Blu-ray.
that's very convenient that you had them.
Yeah.
This obscure, overly philosophical anime. So
That would be my husband.
yeah, that's awesome. So okay, so Serial Experiments Lain, good stuff. I think initially, especially,
I agree.
it has a really interesting tone that's like vaguely retro science fiction-y.
Retro sci-fi. Love retro sci-fi. You know what is a great like technophobic like retro sci-fi concept?
Right.
Drugs that are technology.
Totally. Technology
that was
drugs.
Interesting.
That swallows the thing. It makes me think of XCOM Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Where there's the cyclones. People put little chips into their heads and
Totally.
it's like drugs.
That's
but they're
great.
Technology.
I enjoy it as a retro sci-fi concept.
I would have
Love
to
it.
say that bothered me because it looked like a little grenade, but it also looked like a bot fly, and I was whipped out a little bit.
I was sad it wasn't a more prevalent thing
Element
because
in the
they
story,
introduced it and I was like, this is cool. I love technology drugs.
Yeah.
Those are fun. That's a great like
I
technophobic.
thought they were gonna go somewhere with it, and I don't
Yeah, me
think
too.
it went
I think-
anywhere.
I think the first half of the show was kind of sporadic and all over
Yeah.
the place with as a constructed coherent narrative. The second half of the show felt like they threw out like it felt like they cared less about making a consistent narrative at that point, and I feel like if they worked harder at making it a solid narrative, they could have gone somewhere with the techno drugs.
Right.
But they just like dropped a few
So
things.
so at the beginning, I liked some of the thematic elements of it.
I love the sounds, the buzzing. Like they paid a lot of attention to sounds.
Interesting.
Also, the speaking of sounds, the telephone poles. I think it played like a buzzing or something when on the telephone poles. Like telephone poles and wires are a great way to show the like invasive like technological expansion through society. That's good.
Well,
That's solid.
And Troa being in IT, he noticed that the dad's desk was cleaned up, but not perfect, and it wasn't messy. Like the wires on the back of his desk, he's like, that was intentional. Like he was like, wow. And he never noticed that before because he wasn't in IT then. So yeah, pretty kind of cool.
No, yeah. So a lot of that stuff, a lot of those like elements, the retro sci-fi elements, some of the, it's definitely, I will say it definitely has the feeling of a movie or a TV show rather than a 98 series, 1998. It definitely has the tone and the feeling of a show that was made in 1998.
You cannot get that level of technophobia in a modern narrative.
No. In anything like after 2005, 2006, like that's never gonna happen again. Yeah. So, but that I thought that was kind of fun because it was like, yeah, this is totally what people. If people thought about science fiction, future like media, what the internet was in 1998, and they tried to write a story about how it would take over, people's lives, that's totally what they would write. That's very Bad, what are you saying?
Give me a moment.
Okay. But
what I was gonna say is, I kind of get the technophobia, but at the same time, like I felt like it was so like in the world, it was so invasive in the world. So it was kind of cool because it really has taken over everyone's life, like, and they were predicting some of that. Because, like, the one mindset kind of thing. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool.
No, totally. I think... Or go ahead, Bad.
Best... Let's also establish, Lain has the best, like, office setup in anime.
That's true.
My god.
He has a steam-powered computer that is cooled by liquid carbon.
Yes. I remember that. That's funny. Gonna get me some of that liquid carbon cooling.
Metal.
Super
Love
metal.
it. Delightful.
Okay, so a lot of that stuff I liked. it is. I love the tone. I do love the feeling of the late 90s vision of what the internet would be if it took over everybody's lives. I liked
that sound of the computer hard drive working. Like, that killed me. I was like, don't miss that sound.
That's funny. A lot of good stuff in there thematically. The thing that I think the thing that, and I'll sound like a broken record, but I really feel like, I'm gonna clarify this. Lain, the character Lain, didn't feel like she had a motivation that drove her actions in the scene. Now, she did have a motivation, and she had development on that, and a lot of it happened off screen, and we never saw it.
That was my criticism, is that so Lain like gets into technology, right? And we see like she clearly develops as a character when she gets into technology. Her personality changes. Her friends mention her coming out of her shell. But the development is she gets the technology. Off screen she develops. She comes back on screen, and then she's like, I am different now. Because and it's like, I want to see the development. And seeing her like experience and change is part of like the magic of stories, right? You want to see the characters change, and it felt like they pushed it off screen.
Well, and so this is one of the problems I had with her development as a character, is that she didn't actually like. I don't think I could at almost any point in the show tell you exactly what her motivation was for doing the stuff she did. Because like in the beginning, she's kind of floating around, and then she gets this new computer, and then she tinkers around with it. And what does she want? Well, I guess she kind of wants to know more about the technology and be part of the wires, which is the phrase. Is it the wires?
The wire.
The wired.
Yeah.
The wired.
The wired. Right.
Which I insist is a mistranslation, because that is not a noun.
Yeah. So I'm just going to call it the wire. So, which is like the internet, basically. So she wants to be part of it, kind of. But like, I couldn't really tell you that, because maybe that's not her motivation. And at one point she wants to find a person. Why she wants to find them is kind of, again, like I think she kind of wants to know what's good. But I couldn't. There's almost no point in the show that I could tell you exactly what she wants, which was it's confusing in scenes, because I don't know really what she's going for, what she's trying to accomplish. She is doing stuff, and she clearly has some kind of motivation, however strong or weak that is. But I couldn't tell you what it is, and I couldn't tell you how other characters are standing in her way. There are moments where you think, like, again, you could kind of think, well, maybe there's the group of people, the Knights, who is kind of like somehow standing in her way, but I can't tell you how they're doing that. I feel like so much happens off screen, or it's not really clear, that it just feels like the story is not going anywhere. It's just like happening to her. It does feel very disjointed. But that's probably my biggest criticism of it as a show, is that I just don't know what the character wants, and I don't know who's trying to stop her, and like what her end goal is, because apparently people wanted to stop her. And I think that also one of the things about the show is they try to create this idea of she is somehow more special than other people, and something is going to happen if she is somehow dangerous in some way if she does something. It's all very amorphous, but something will happen if she does something, and some people don't want her to do it.
I'm gonna be honest, I felt kind of slapped by the writer when he was like, we may never know.
We may never know.
What you are. Like, don't you do this to me, writer.
Tell me. You tell me. I want to know. I didn't get to know anything else. So that's my biggest criticism, is I really don't know what anybody wanted in that show. you can kind of see they want something, but I don't know what it is. So
Right.
that would be my biggest criticism of it as a
Motivating.
as a story.
Yeah, the characters.
Yeah. Now, and again, like, I think they did have motivation, but I just don't know what it was. Like, and I don't know who I don't know who wanted to do what for what reason.
Well, so very beginning of the show, I really felt like, wow, is the mom this big of a jerk? Like, at least the dad's taking an interest in her. Because, like, the first thing I think she asks is, like, or she tells her about the suicide that happens at school. And the mom is just like, just ignores her. She says nothing. And I'm like, what the hell? And then, like, I don't know. And, like, the sister felt very alive to me until she died.
Yeah, or whatever happened to her.
Well, they said, like, the afterlife was full. And so that she tweaks out. And, like, that was her looking at herself.
Right.
That she got hit by the car.
And so, okay, and so this is, I think it's kind of unclear about what a lot of the stuff is actually going on in the show, because I didn't even realize she died.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, she gets hit by the car and wakes up. After getting hit by the car and walks away. Like, she's just like, oh, that's weird.
Right.
I think the issue with that, the reason why it's so confusing, is they just don't ground or explain the technology. And whatever the technology is of the world, it is not the internet, as anyone has ever understood the internet.
It's true.
It's closer to like the astral plane from Shadowrun
than actually,
to the internet.
Here's what I totally think. If they made it the astral plane and just turned it into a fantasy series, it would make sense too.
Yeah,
because the way that it works with the internet, like, I guess I get it. It was the 90s. It was like the late 90s, and people didn't really get the internet. But I feel like it's a really bad, like, parallel for the internet.
I think they could have.
That's an art direction.
They could have made it work somehow. I definitely think pushing it into the realm of magic and being like, it's like astral projection. It is a network that you astrally project yourself along. That is a parallel magical world with this one. Would have made it easier to understand and comprehend, because it felt a little disjointed, because everyone who's watching is like, this isn't how the internet works. What kind of internet is this world? And then they explained it by being like, it is they basically said it was like the astral realm created from the human unconscious, but they didn't. It was unclear because of their choice of how they depicted it, I think.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. But I don't want to be too stupid. Now, again, I'm relatively negative feeling about the whole thing, but I don't want to be too super negative. What were the things, aside from some of the things I mentioned about tone and theme and that we were talking about with that, how was the music? I don't remember the music.
I liked it.
Did you?
I did.
I
even liked the very beginning theme song. Like, I got like a Roswell feel of it.
Oh wow! Actually, didn't they literally have like a live action clips of Roswell or something like that?
Yeah, I think. Well, and what I got from it was the idea that the aliens had given them this technology to help progress our technology into the future.
Okay, let me just establish, by the way, the worst possible thing, the most egregious thing a creator of an animated series can do, even worse than having all the dialogue be monologues, is to put live action footage in the middle of an animated show. That is the most jarring.
That is fair.
I would completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So I felt like it's not mean. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying, like, when they do it, I feel like it's laziness. Like, oh, I didn't want to draw something. I didn't want to put effort.
That's what it came out to. As soon as we saw it, we were like, oh, budget.
I did feel that, too.
Yeah.
It's so different. It just, like, it pulls you right out of the show because it's such a stark contrast.
Yeah.
And I think the second that that happened, we were both like, "Oh, there's a budget constraint."
It's also
That's what I felt like too. Yeah.
Yep, they ran out of money for this episode.
It's also, if you've ever heard the term ham-fisted exposition, it would not apply more than to the monologue of explaining where the technology came from.
They
that happened during that.
hit us with the exposition hammer.
That is, yes.
Wham! Mm-hmm.
Wham.
Just so you know.
It's not unusual to lose consciousness when you are struck by the exposition hammer.
It's true. And it leaves a mark.
Can I ask you guys? So, okay. So the Knights Templar, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing their thing. They're in medieval Europe. They're like, hey, we have magical powers. We can tap into the human unconscious to create a god, right? And they do that, right? And they're being all cool because they're the Knights Templar. Why is it? Are they just really progressive? Am I missing it? Because the Knights Templar, the god they created, is a Japanese man.
No.
Anyone else feel like this is a little...
Yeah.
Like...
Well, did you see the guy at the
Wouldn't
end?
you expect him to be more like... Okay, what?
The guy at the end. The guy that was the guy at the end of the show, who was, because you're talking about like the god.
The god with the red stripes.
Yeah, the guy at the end. There was the bit of exposition. I think it was talking about how the guy who put the code in to the wired, like to make it all crazy or something, or to do something, some important bit of it, was a programmer who was disgruntled, who got fired. And at the end, there was a guy he was walking and he's in like a suit and he was being disgruntled because he just got fired, and he was that god guy, but he was just like in a business suit and he had a suitcase. You missed that?
Was that the same person?
It was totally the same person.
Oh
it's because he has the super like long face. Yeah.
My mind is
three-dimensional boom.
I don't comprehend.
You see, this is the real problem. Is we just don't have the brain power to comprehend this anime. Happens to me a lot.
Well, and like that's why. So when I first watched it, I think that's what got me, was the fact that I was like, I can't keep up with this. Like my mind would wander like ADD child. Like I'm like, okay. And like this time, I felt like I connected with some of the themes better.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was like, okay.
So
we're here, and then we're here. Like
so
it was a little more. I don't know. I had better attention for it, or more experience.
Here's how I feel about that. I feel like when you first watched it, you were probably watching it for leisure, and you were not trying to review it or trying to decipher an opinion about the whole thing.
Well, that was when Sam was trying to get me to watch more anime.
Oh. So you were unwilling.
You can tell I'm terrible.
Yeah, jeez.
Don't throw that
Sam,
at someone.
what is wrong with you, man?
The rest of it.
I'll slap you.
You throw something light at them. You give them a short form. You're like, we can watch like 3 or 4 episodes and take a break.
So one of the reasons that people lose,
Sam, he's
like,
laughing really hard now.
when people lose interest in a show, or they're if you find that your mind is wandering, or you're losing interest in a show, or you're just kind of it's hard to pay attention to the show, it's probably a structural problem with respect to like like character motivation in the scene, like the what is the phrase, relevance of the scene, and what the conflict in the scene is. And so like if in a scene, every scene, if you write, every scene in your story should have a character, protagonist or antagonist, who has a goal, and they should be in the scene trying to work to accomplish their goal, and they should be met with somebody who has a goal that is running in opposition to their goal. It doesn't have to be the opposite of the goal, but it just needs to have a, one person can't have theirs while the other person has their win. They have to have goals that conflict with each other.
They either go towards the objective or against the objective or whatever it is.
So
it's
So they can't
There's
both
collision.
win. Yeah, so there's they come to conflict, and that's conflict. Every single scene in the story has to have a character moving towards their goal and something in their way. Whether that's another character.
Presumably that's because any scene that isn't that is not worth showing on screen. You just abridge it. You're like,
Right. Well, and
they walked to school. There was no conflict in them going to school.
Exactly. There's no reason to have them walking to school. If this conflict starts at school, that's where you start the scene.
The conflict has to play the objective, because if it doesn't play the objective, then you have conflict for no reason. So it has to be motivated.
It has to be, and so if there's a scene, and I think this happened a lot in this anime, and it happens in many things where there's a scene where there's no real conflict, or nobody's really moving towards their goal. Something might be happening, but it's not directly relevant to what the character's motivations are. And this is one of the reasons character motivation is really important. And you need to know what the character's motivation is. Because if you don't know what their motivation is, you're not sure what they're trying to do. Even if they're trying to do something, you don't know what they're trying to do. So you don't know who they're in conflict with. And you don't know what the conflict is. So it's a confusing scene, or you just don't know why it's happening. There's nothing you're following along with. So your mind will start wandering, because, you're not sure exactly what's happening. Like every single set, go watch like any movie, like go watch the first Iron Man movie. Every single scene, and I haven't seen the first Iron Man movie in a long time, but I remember it as being pretty good. I guarantee every single scene in it is going to have a definite, like, he's trying to do something, or something is important to him. And he's in conflict with someone else.
There's inner workings underneath,
Right.
I think
any good movie.
I think definitely the strongest point of Serial Experiments Lain is the thematic element, this like not quite cyberpunk element that's going on, and I 100% think that the writer had a lot of interesting ideas, and I think they had less interest in putting them together into like a
cohesive
solid,
narrative.
like traditionally well-constructed narrative, but they did want to put out all these ideas. And I think the thing to do, put it on your side monitor while you're like grinding in a video game or something, you're mining in EVE Online, and you just like watch it while you're doing something else.
Yeah, that's totally.
My husband's been doing that. How'd you know?
That's the way to watch it. I think that's the perfect way to ingest an anime like this, because it's not a solid enough traditional narrative to be something that you really want to watch on your own. But it definitely has a lot of cool, interesting, weird things, like the bathroom scene with the
I don't know. I feel like I would miss so much if I was watching it on the side.
That's the
But
point.
just mine.
I feel like I would just get like, wait, what? Like, what? Like, worse.
You do it while you're doing a low investment task like mining in EVE Online.
That's
you gotta
fair.
reverse
Okay.
those 30-second timers, or play in like backgammon, or Minesweeper.
Right.
This
Classic.
is one I would have listened to on your play, how you like to play anime.
So
Your fastness.
2.5 times.
So I would
This
probably,
one seems a little slow.
if I were doing that, I'd probably put on something with good action scenes. That seems like the thing to do. We had a long discussion about what is, and we came up with a couple of different terms. What is a background anime versus what is a side monitor anime? I know you need to come over. It was very compelling. But what's a background anime versus what's a side monitor anime?
The way I watch anime is I put them on my side monitor, I do something else on my main monitor, and then what happens is as the anime draws more of my focus, I pause what I'm doing on my main monitor and I move it to the main monitor. If it is an anime that is mostly thematic and focuses less on the narrative, like Serial Experiments Lain, it might stay on the side monitor. And then the speed is also adjusted depending on various things. Sometimes there's an anime that focuses on the narrative but doesn't get moving very quickly, and then I'm just like 2.5 times speed, maybe 3 times speed, and it goes
It's
on my
still
main
a
one.
little heathenish.
You adjust the levels and move it around as necessary.
Yeah, and this is something I was talking about was because at first he was calling it a background anime, and I was like, I don't like the idea of like it's something you put on the back, like if you like play a board game and you throw on a movie in the background and nobody watches it, it's just motion and sound.
Noise.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a different type of thing, which we've decided is side monitor anime.
It kind of is your main focus.
Yeah, I know.
It kind of is your main focus when you're doing that.
Yeah,
but you're performing some other motor task, like grinding in a game.
Right, grinding.
I am guilty of sewing while I was watching.
Right.
Totally, because you're doing, and this is I clean mechanical things a lot because that's the thing I end up doing. And totally, I'll watch something. Usually for me, it's something that I've seen a few times. Because I'm not going to pay a ton of attention to it, but I'm still going to kind of watch it as I'm doing this.
Right.
I know some people who like to knit at RPG night. Let me just establish that RPG night is not a side monitor task.
I don't think.
When is RPG night?
It's the night when you have RPGs.
Yeah.
Well, I know. When is it? I want to come. I'll bring my husband.
There is currently no RPG night.
Oh, that's fair. So okay, back to anime. Serial Experiments Lain.
Cheshire Cat.
That was.
Yeah, that was.
Oh man! So this is a great example. The Cheshire Cat scene. Yeah. This is a great example of a scene in which the characters could have been at conflict and they were not. And I was so because she was like, so in the scene, the main character Lain is walking. She's in the internet, right? So there's weird things that you're just gonna have to accept. So she's walking on a conveyor belt in a big black room or a big black void, and there's a mouth that is talking at her, like circling around her, and it is. She calls it the Cheshire Cat.
Yeah. But
she calls it a cheap Cheshire Cat. Impersonator or something like that. So she wants information from this entity that she's talking to, and they're having a dialogue, and then she eventually just decides she doesn't need him, and she just finds the information herself. And man, that's so sad. That would have been so perfect because that's this is a character who wants a thing. She wants information. And this character has it. And she, and she in the scene, she says a couple of things to kind of demean the character as unoriginal because he's this, this
poking
the lips are that he is like the Cheshire Cat, and she implies that he's like it's a cheap obvious rip off of the Cheshire Cat, and that it's everybody that's so bog standard. How what a terrible bore you are, and it's there's this little bit of conflict for a second, and you're like, okay, so they're gonna have this conversation in the story that is a battle for the information. She's trying to beat him,
right,
and through conversation, and she doesn't. She just decides she's going to find it herself. She finds it herself, and he's like, "Oh, you found it yourself."
I think he just kind of gives it to her.
Does it? No, because he says, "I see you've found it yourself or searched yourself or something like that." I think she just finds it herself. Yeah, and at the time I was like, "Really?" But so she doesn't need him, and that was the shtick was she doesn't need him, and I was like.
Yeah, that is a good classic kind of archetypal thing. The two people, one person wants information, one person's trying to get something for it, and they're competing.
And they're I
thought it. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a scene that almost has a conflict, and it almost it feels kind of like it has a conflict. But really, in the end, it doesn't have a conflict because she just bypasses this character, and we never see him again, and he's of no consequence. And that's too bad because it was kind of an interesting moment. Yeah, I feel like one of the things with Serial Experiments, Lain, is that there were a lot of interesting artistic decisions made for the show that were made to be artistic decisions. I just realized I haven't changed the title of the show. 30.
I feel like there was a lot of uncovered things, because I feel like each time you watch it, you get a little bit more out of it. I mean, my husband said even watching it back this time, he got more out of it and enjoyed it more.
Yeah, I think...
So, I feel like thematically, there is more underneath. There were some things that as an artist I really appreciated. I didn't see the stuffed animals. They literally shadowed the stuffed animals until the second episode halfway through. And then they shadowed the rest of the time. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I liked the stuffed animals. I think they had a lot of interesting artistic stuff and a lot of there were a lot of scenes that there were a lot of very interesting concepts, and I think part of the difficulty in deciphering all the meaning is that they are kind of jumbled together. So you have scenes back to back that it's hard to draw correlations between them, but the individual scenes are really interesting to look at.
Yeah.
I thought they did it. There were some really clever things that I saw that I was taken aback by.
Right. I agree with that.
Ooh, that was good. And then there were other things where I was like, okay, I'm ADD childing. I'm off in my own brain here.
No, I totally think that the current as it was if they had made a few edits to the script, if they had passed it on to an editor or something like that who really understands how scenes are put together, because they have a lot of stuff there. It's set out. I would say it's a great structure for the whole story. I think the individual scene work just didn't really make sense, though.
I agree with that. I think it was probably more the
stereotypical on purpose.
Wait, what?
They didn't make it stereotypical on purpose, though. They didn't want to go for those themes,
No, right. Well, no, and it's like what I'm saying with this, where she's walking, she's talking to the Cheshire Cat. The scene is set up to have a great conflict, but it doesn't in the scene. And if whoever wrote the actual dialogue for the scene, if they had, made sure that the dialogue worked and there was conflict in the scene, it would have been a good scene. I mean, it was with respect to the rest of the anime, it was a relatively decent scene anyways.
Cheshire Cat scene I called archetypal. I didn't say stereotypical, if that was a confusion for you. Archetypal's different. Archetypal's good, arguably.
Archetypal good. It depends. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. It is a thing.
Yes. No.
Oh. No. You sound like you're in a very deep hole. So, and that is kind of the thing. When I say that it almost worked, that's kind of how I feel. Is that the Cheshire Cat scene could have it was put together in a way that could have worked really well.
It's a really good premise for a scene.
It's a really good premise for a scene, and the setup is good. Go ahead.
I have to say, I was drawing parallels from Sword Art Online.
I haven't seen it.
So, it
Does
was
that need to be your next
feel...
anime?
No.
I like it.
Actually, I do think that Helen should choose the anime for the next time.
You don't trust me anymore.
I'm not saying I don't trust you, per se.
Look, I didn't remember most of it.
I'm saying I can only have so many exhausting experiences.
But it was called Experiment Lain.
It was an experiment. That is true. I also don't understand the title, Serial Experiments Lain. Serial Experiments Lain. Does that have to do with cereal as in
cereal is in order.
Multiple.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not clear.
I didn't like how at the end of every episode they said to be continued.
Okay, so anime back then did do that.
Right.
I am so glad anime doesn't do that anymore.
Totally.
I feel like that is so dumb.
That is dumb.
I think
I said that to my husband. I was like, to be continued.
To be continued.
Yes, we realized. Yes.
It gives a sense that the episode doesn't have closure.
Yeah.
And it feels like the writer was unwilling to put like a stopping point in.
Right.
But they had to anyways. So it feels weird.
It feels like, it feels too much like the end.
Wishy-washy.
Yeah. They didn't know how to wrap the scene up.
I feel like it dumbed down the audience a little.
Yeah. So
like to tell us to be continued and it's supposed to be a series, you're like,
wow, really? Yeah. Also, I think it's for the first half of the show. The way they did the credits was really weird. Or actually, I don't know what they were because there were no subtitles on the captions and like the screens with text. What were all the screens that popped up that had text on them? And it felt
some of the text.
It felt like commercial breaks or something, but it wasn't because they would be like every 2 minutes.
They also had a tie-dye background. Why was there a tie-dye background?
Oh, Sam explained that to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the tie-dye background was her inner monologue, sort of. It was somebody talking to her, but it was her like inner monologue. Because I was like, what? Why?
It didn't have subtitles.
Oh, mine did. Oh, you guys didn't get that?
Yeah, that would have probably helped a lot.
So much. There were so many of those. Get it better. There were so many of those.
Theirs didn't have it. He goes, oh. He was like, yeah, you definitely missed out on some.
That's
fair. There were so many of those.
To be fair, my opinion stands. Because
that's what pushed her questioning.
What was the dialogue? Wait, what? So what was it?
It was her inner thoughts.
Yeah, or like sometimes
okay.
The suicide girl talking.
Okay, here's how I feel. Your show should not rely on big screens of text for it to make sense. If it does,
I think there should be a voiceover. Talking to her from the afterlife too. There is a voiceover. Ours had it.
Really?
A voiceover? Yeah. That seems like...
Yeah. We didn't have voice for the tie-dye backgrounds.
Yeah.
We didn't have a voiceover. I mean,
maybe there was like someone speaking Japanese very lightly in the back. I could see that being missed.
Yeah, maybe.
It read it to us.
Interesting.
And it had subtitles on ours, but we have the DVD, so I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting.
It may have been like, yeah.
I still disagree. That's too inserty. Information.
It was a lot of inserts.
Information should be given in scenes. Information should not be given in like, stop. Here's information. Back.
It also adds to the monologue ratio.
That also would increase the monologue ratio by a lot. So like.
Sam's going. Yeah.
So yeah, interesting. I think definitely it was
You missed out a little bit.
You know, I actually don't feel that way.
No, I mean like the way it was presented. I don't agree with, but the information
probably would have been very handy. Yeah, the information probably
would.
The
death note that the girl receives right before she dies.
Which one?
The sister.
Does the sister receive a death note before she dies now?
Yeah, it's in Japanese.
Oh.
It's in the blood.
That's what it was. It was death note. When we saw that, we were both like, what the fuck did it say? It was probably something really important. Pardon my language. Yeah, do you remember that, Noah? Do you remember that, Ben?
Yeah, right before she died.
Yeah, she got like a note.
Something about you're gonna die.
Right, no, because she gets... Oh, yeah, because it's like she gets handed something out in the crowd, and she opens the envelope, and she's like surprised by what it says.
The afterlife is full, and then she dies shortly after that.
That's what that says. Because I think we both saw that, and we're like, that's probably important information, but there are no subtitles for it.
Issue because so few dubbings or subbings have proper subtitles for written text.
Yeah, it's true.
And it is so essential.
It is very essential. Apparently, crucial.
I think what is it? I think Psychopass has subtitles for the text messages and for signs.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why yours didn't though, because I have like the old DVD.
It may be that the DVDs. It may be that the DVDs that was like the DVDs they put more effort in, and so they went in and made sure to add stuff that wasn't there.
Because Sam got it back in 2001. He said.
Yeah, I would expect if it's the DVDs, they put more effort in to make sure that everything that was there needed to be there was.
Yeah. I
So-
didn't realize you guys missed out on those.
Yeah, probably
That's so
crucial
important.
information. The note would have been very useful.
Well, the note was actually, Sam said it was inside the wet wipe. She ripped open the
Right,
wet
she
wipe
ripped open.
and
Yeah,
said,
she
"Is
rips
this
open the
the
thing.
joke?"
Yeah, she
And
rips
the
open,
person-
and she.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah,
that we
that
were
happened.
we were both like, huh.
It probably
That's
says
probably
something important.
probably says something really important for the story, but I don't know what it
Let's
is.
keep watching.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll figure it out.
maybe we'll figure it out eventually. It totally didn't even know she died.
Yeah, and that's why her spirit stayed
Actually,
on
and that would have made a lot more sense because that would have, if she had gotten the note about death and the afterlife being full, absolutely, when she died, I would have been like, oh, she died. Because I totally didn't realize that she died. I thought it was a weird dream or something.
Yeah.
But, okay. That being said, that would be important. The weird things that were like popping up that apparently were important bits of exposition. I don't think that's.
It probably should have been animated.
It should have had
And
some
that
kind
kind
of.
goes along with the fact that they used like video instead. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
that was
I found
horrible.
that really jarring. I did.
There is no
and
person.
I thought, and the first thing I thought, like, they used that whatever camera where like they switched the view so everything was kind of infraredish and like went in
It's like,
circles.
oh.
I was like, I kind of felt like, okay, why are we getting in this realm instead of? It felt a little lazy.
Yeah,
I would
totally.
like to also establish that anyone who understands the most fundamental color theory recognizes that tie-dye is objectively bad.
Yes. Tie-dye is bad. If you like tie-dye,
Objectively.
you are bad.
Yes.
That just reminds me of the unicorn movie.
Oh my goodness.
It was a good movie.
There was a unicorn in some of the more recent Ancient Magus Bride manga, except it
Oh.
wasn't
Really?
a unicorn. It didn't have a horn, so I guess it was really just a horse.
I think bad is
But
actually
it ate
reading it.
people. It ate drowning people, and that was delightful.
Wow.
That's awesome. That's pretty. Yeah, I think you were telling me about that.
It lets you ride it, and then when you ride it, it jumps into the water and eats you while you're drowned.
Oh,
That's a good. That's
On point.
it's an on-point unicorn.
On point. Love
I
ancient.
liked Ancient. I did like that
I
one.
love Ancient Magus Bride. I love the focus on like character relationships. It does really well with character development and character relationships, and I love the like modern high fairy tale kind of fantasy
Yeah.
is so cool.
It is definitely times like this that I look back fondly on Ancient Magus Bride.
I like Ancient
No,
Magus Bride.
I can't remember how I felt about it. I'm sure I vaguely remember, but I do remember mostly enjoying it.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Except I still don't get the thing where he's like, die. It's like, that's
yeah.
that's like you're
you
being.
know,
That's like
I could see a socially awkward person in the
I'm,
modern world.
I'm gonna
doing
get you.
that.
Except way more serious. Die.
The silence is real.
But we have about 10 minutes left.
I also went and read more caught up on the Made in Abyss manga.
Ah,
My husband wants me to watch that one too.
I think you should go for the manga.
Okay.
I guess you could do
I like
this
manga.
show. Manga's good. I like manga.
yeah, it's all right.
It's got some cool, pretty artwork. You haven't
I
read
read
it.
the Akira
Don't you-
manga.
It's you know how I feel about Made in Abyss?
Akira is great.
It especially switches this way once you get to the near the end of the manga. You know the guy who came up with the concept for the alien and Aliens,
Yeah.
and how his artwork's like really interesting
did-
and cool and beautiful and like
Yes.
uncomfortably sexual.
Yeah.
I get the same feeling in the Made in Abyss manga,
Okay.
So he
except
did,
they're like, yeah.
that artist
Cool.
didn't actually make up the aliens. The people who designed Alien took it for inspiration.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Have you ever read
He
Mega
inspired
Tokyo?
Which one?
Mega Tokyo?
Mega Tokyo 2?
No. I don't know.
Mega Tokyo? Mega Tokyo. I do not remember.
It was an online one. That was like back in like the early 2000s. It was really good.
Did you mention a minute ago Akira?
Oh, I like that art style.
That's
great. That's kind of weird.
That is a great manga. Mm-hmm. Wonderful artwork.
It's got a really cute concept. You should read it.
Oh. For a second, I thought you were still talking about Akira, and I was like, I don't know if I'd say cute. No. Weird. Yeah.
Mega Tokyo.
Talking bad.
So
yeah, the art looks cool.
So, serial
Best
experiments. Lain, best girl.
Alice.
Who is that?
The best friend.
The best friend.
Oh.
Or the sister. Or the dad.
Were there any adorable animals?
There were stuffed animal silhouettes.
I mean, her pajamas were like awesome.
Oh,
Kigurumi gets best girl.
Yeah, Kigurumi is best girl. I wish I had an elephant onesie. Or what was hers was a bear, huh? That's adorable.
It was awesome.
I think her computer gets waifu.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be a little high maintenance if we're being honest.
That's cool. I mean, it kind of took over, so it was high maintenance.
A little bit. And you never know when it's going to blow up on you.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
You just got to keep the liquid carbon stocked.
As long as you keep your liquid carbon in the cooling
said he
system.
votes Navi for waifu.
Navi? Oh, yeah. That's fair.
Now I know why everything on my computer system is named Navi.
It all took it from Serial Experiments Lain. That's where the internet came from. That's a tough one for me. I don't know if I can justify a waifu in this one. Everybody was either very weird or very maladjusted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it was an apt description.
But Alice kept trying to keep her safe.
That's true. And she was
the whole time.
I mean, and she did well up until the moment where the computer manifested
creepy.
a strange
but she doesn't
god.
love you. She loves her teacher.
That was weird.
You really want your waifu to not love you?
I don't know that she loved the teacher, though.
What if you were a teacher, though?
That was weird.
I see that concept in so many animes. The student-teacher
Yeah,
relationship.
except and she's 14.
And I don't necessarily understand the cultural context in Japan. I understand the Western perspective, but I really don't know what it's supposed to mean.
It's a person of power who's taking advantage of a young girl.
Hey, and that's anime. Okay, so I don't know if I could say waifu. I'm not really feeling it this time around.
That's fair.
Everybody was very confusing, and God apparently. So, any closing thoughts? Closing thoughts on Serial Experiments Lain.
Do not show this to somebody who's just getting into
Totally
anime.
don't do that.
Side monitor.
Unless you don't want them to watch anime. If you don't want them to watch anime, give this to them as their first one. And tell them you won't be their friend anymore if they don't watch it. Actually,
it's terrible.
That's pretty bad. Okay, but yeah, it's interesting. That's about all I have to say about that. What is the next one we're gonna watch? Helen, I kind of feel like it's your time to pick the next anime.
Oh my
what
god!
genre are you thinking
Every
here?
genre.
God,
Do you need something more fast-paced? Do you want action?
This is interesting because
I need help with this.
Right now I'm writing for a science fiction story, so I wouldn't mind a science fiction anime.
Kanata no Astra's more recent sci-fi.
Kanata no Astra.
No Astra? I don't know about it.
Gesundheit. A joke as old as time.
Astra Lost in Space. There's the translation of the title.
Astra Lost in Space?
Kanata no Astra.
Star Lost in Space.
I'll try it.
It's not my choice, man. Like, Helen, it's up to you.
That's
fine. Have you seen it?
Maybe.
You've seen
Was it good?
You saw it.
I've seen every anime.
What did you think of it?
I think that the mystery is, when revealed, stupid and dumb, and they should have rethought it.
Well, that doesn't sound like a good pitch at all.
But that's just the mystery.
I don't want to watch it anymore.
It's fun. It's like a fun sci-fi romp. They go from planet to planet, being like sci-fi romp.
Oh, I think you told me about this. I don't like it.
Did.
I don't want to watch it.
Sam said that was like the end of Mandalorian.
Oh, don't say that, and no spoilers. I haven't watched it. Yeah, gosh. Okay. What is another one? Actually, I could also just use a break from sci-fi. We could do a fantasy one. You know what I would love? Something tonally kind of like Little Witch Academia, but more coherent and with better characters.
Dr. Stone's also an option. That's newer.
I love Dr. Stone. That one's good.
I didn't
that
watch
one's
all of Dr. Stone.
Like quicker.
Ghost in the Shell.
I love Ghost in the Shell. I didn't
I-
watch the original. I watched Standalone though.
Moon
I haven't
hasn't-
seen the OG.
Big Bad Moon hasn't seen Ghost in the Shell.
Not the series.
It's
Not the series.
It's sci-fi. It's really cool.
Wait, Ghost in a Shell is sci-fi?
Also,
Don't freaking watch the movie though.
I've seen the
The
movie.
movie was
Also.
terrible.
I've seen the movie.
also,
What'd you think of it?
I don't remember. It's been ages.
Oh,
Also.
good. I meant the live action movie though.
Oh, that movie. Oh, I've seen that.
Tachikoma.
It's hot garbage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tachikoma episodes are best episodes.
Tachikomas.
Okay,
They're
I think
the best episodes of the.
we should watch Ghost in a Shell. That's how I feel.
Love it, my heart.
Okay, here's a question. How many seasons is Ghost in a Shell?
It's probably
Depends
like
on which one you watch.
24 episodes or so.
This is
Are we
also a
watching-
great
Are we
question.
watching SAC
Yeah.
or
What's SAC?
which one? Standalone Complex?
Yes.
I gotta look. And there's like 3 movies too. Or more.
Standalone complex, probably.
I love Standalone Complex. Ghost.
It's going to be like an original series versus TNG kind of thing.
I don't remember.
Yeah. I totally want to watch
Yes,
Standalone.
please. I hate the blue light. It kills me.
Let's watch.
26 episodes, and then Standalone Complex second gig is another 26?
Okay, here's how I feel.
That's a lot of episodes. We should watch half.
We should watch
Half of one season.
half of one season.
And then if it's really
I have
good,
to
we'll
tell
keep
you, the first season of Standalone Complex was really good. The second season, the artist changed, and I didn't get into it. I actually didn't finish watching the second season because I was like, ugh.
Okay. I love the. Let's watch. I think we should watch a half a season of Standalone Complex. And if we really love it, which I hope we do, then we can watch the other half of it.
Deal.
I do have a lot of demands on my time this month because I decided I wanted to do all the things. But
There's too many things.
yes,
What are you doing?
a lot of stuff. I'm getting a raise at
Are
my
you
job.
acting?
Acting, no. No.
Are you writing?
Only when I'm at work. Yes. Yes, I'm writing. I'm doing a bunch of stuff. I have a bunch of stuff I have to do. Maybe if I find a little bit of extra time, I can get my Land Cruiser engine rebuilt. That'd be great.
That'd be fun.
It will be fun. But that's on if I get time. We'll see. Okay. So next time, that's going to be February the
an anime
1st. Oh wow, that's going to be February the 1st on Anime Story Podcast. We're going to be talking about the first half of Ghost in a Shell, the first season of Ghost in a Shell standalone complex. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sitting and talking with us or listening to us talk and begrudge our relationship with anime. We'll talk later. Bye.
Bye.